If it is unsolicited and you do not know the person, even if it looks legit, proceed very cautiously because there is a strong, very, very strong chance that this is some type of cyber criminal trying to get information, money from you, something along those lines. Thank you for stopping by Nurture Small Business Podcast. I am your host, Denise Cagan. If you're looking for stories that lift up women business owners, both in their personal and professional lives, you are at the right place. As always, if you like what you hear on today's podcast, please share it. You have my gratitude for doing so. Hello, and thank you for joining me today. Today is another solo podcast. This is Denise's Opinions. It is not legal advice, HR advice, financial advice, or any other advice that's regulated under law. It is just my opinion. So today I'm going to talk to both employers, businesses, business owners who are trying to attract candidates, as well as the candidates who are looking for jobs. So stay with me. This is very important. Cyber criminal activities have been on the rise. I read an article this morning in the New York Times talking about the recent hack that I believe it was, hang on, CrowdStrike. Okay, yeah, sorry, I had to look up that name. It didn't stick in my mind. CrowdStrike had. Now, we use Microsoft, so we experienced some of the things that happened when CrowdStrike had issues. And it only impacted a fraction of Microsoft's people. And so this article goes on and talks about how that was not a cyber criminal attack. That was just some or code in a very small snippet. But it goes on to talk about how fragile that are dependent and how interdependent we are on the age of digital. So what does that mean? That means that lots of things can happen because of our digital activities that make us vulnerable. And that's both country, businesses, individuals. Okay. So I'm going to focus on employers as well as candidates seeking employment in this particular message that I'm giving you now. This morning, I received a solicitation for a job. Hey, this is McCarthy Search. And this is why you should stay subscribed. First of all, I'm not looking for a job. Secondly, I didn't sign up for this. Okay. So to the job candidates, this is your first clue. If you get a unsolicited notification of a job that fits you via text, which by the way, I get them by text all the time and I mark them as spam, via text, via email, or message on Facebook, Instagram, any place else. Okay. If it is unsolicited and you do not know the person, even if it looks legit, proceed very cautiously because there is a strong, very, very strong chance that this is some type of cyber criminal trying to get information, money from you, something along those lines. Okay. Now, we talked about that, but also there's this thing called impersonation. And this is where both the candidates and the employers need to pay attention. It was about 1.5 to 2 years ago that a young lady reached out to me and she basically did what I did this morning with the McCarthy thing. She saw an ad on LinkedIn for positions at my company. And when she responded to it, they asked for some interesting information, like, hey, we'll direct deposit. We need this. We'll do that. What's your bank? What's your cell phone number? And these are all things that, and this was without an interview. They were just asking for this information. So you need to be aware that, first of all, this was a company, individual, we don't know, that was impersonating my business. And they said that they had jobs that were paying at a very different rate than what we were paying. And it was also a very high rate for the industry. So it looked very appealing. Okay. when it looks too good to be true, let's consider if it's real. Okay. Do some background check, which this young lady did. She actually did what I did this morning and looked up McCarthy. She looked up us. And when she did, she reached out to me directly and asked me, was I hiring? And I said, oh, no, ma'am, do not click on anything that they give you. Okay. Because I have no idea what this is. And we had recently been hiring. So it was a little bit off from our normal cycle. But if in a normal circumstance, I would have just directed her to our career page, okay, which is the only place that you will find information on hiring. Yes, it does go out to Indeed and other things, but it's always going to bring you back to our career page. So if you see something too good to be true, something unsolicited, pay attention to it. And for companies and individuals alike, Google yourself. Google your name, Google your business name, see what information is out there. Use your hashtags in all your social profiles. And by the way, if you think something is fake, do not message somebody through a social profile, because if they have been hacked, it is going to be the hackers that reply to you and not the company. Contact them via some other means. So in the case of the LinkedIn impersonation, we reported it to LinkedIn. And we also put a notice up on our page, like, we are not hiring through this on LinkedIn. If you've been, communicating with them, stop, because they're impersonating our company. This is the only place that we hire, and directed people to our careers page. So it's really important that we protect ourselves. But did you know that you can also report these crimes, these impersonations and such, to the Internet Crime Complaint Center, IC3, as part of the FBI. And you can actually get there. I'll put the URL in the show notes as well, but it's basically ics3.gov. And I knew of this, though I had actually forgotten about it. What reminded me was when I did my due diligence this morning and going, why is this McCarthy search thing, looking me up? I did a search, not for McCarthy search, because there is a website for McCarthy search that, quite frankly, looks suspect to me as well. There is nothing about open jobs. It's simply a form to give information, and I'm not cool with that. So what I did was I did a search. McCarthy job offer that was unsolicited. And guess what? On the McCarthy website said, yes, we've been victims of frequent impersonation of jobs. If you get one of these, report it to the ICS3 or IC3. So that's how I was reminded about this. Small business owners, we got to stick up for each other. We have to educate each other about these things. Stop using your children's names and birth dates for, your logins. Yes, things are hard to remember sometimes. We have to just find a better way. Secure passwords, really, really important to avoid getting hacked on social media or any other place that's critical, especially with the use of single sign-on. If you're using single sign-on for a lot of things, guess what? They get your Gmail, and you've used single sign-on through Gmail, they've got everything else. The password keepers on your browsers, they are not encrypted, which means if you're working in a coffee shop, a cyber criminal can capture that information. A lot of things that we just simply do not think about. So that's my tips for the day for both the candidates, the job seekers, and the business owners who are employers. Google your information. Make sure that what you're seeing matches you. Have secure passwords. Verify, okay? Do your due diligence and verify. I'm Denise Cagan. I'm the CEO of DCA Virtual Business Support, bringing you Denise's Opinions today. Thank you for joining me for today's podcast, where I focus on women in business and how we can be allies to one another. Please rate us on the podcast app that you listen to the most, and send me any ideas you have for podcast topics or any other feedback. I love to hear from my listeners. You can reach me at denise@dcavirtual.com.